Hi, everyone, and welcome to That CBD Show. I'm Christy Burkhead, and with me is Drew Burkhead, as always. Today, we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Melissa Golden. She is a PhD candidate, and she is a scientist and director of StimCellix. Melissa, welcome to That CBD Show. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks
welcome.
for having me.
Welcome. So we talk on this show a lot about CBD, but we're branching out. The reason we do is because we got into this, and it's a natural way that people are getting a lot of relief. And so in the spirit of that, we bring you on the show because you're involved in stem cells. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to shed a little bit of light on that because that's in the same vein of that. So just to get a little basis point, maybe you can just give us a quick synopsis of what stem cells are. I know people are learning it, but it's only an industry that's not even 10 years old, so some people know about it. Obviously, people are getting the procedures as we speak, but some people are still learning about it, capturing that. So just a little bit of basis of what stem cells are from your words.
Okay. So high school biology, this will be fun.
Okay.
We all have different types of cells in our body: heart cells, cartilage cells, bone cells, lung cells. We have those cells. And when they divide, they can only make little clones of each other. So when a muscle cell divides, the only thing it can make is another muscle cell. Well, we also have stem cells, and the way that they work is when they divide, they can turn into another stem cell, a little clone, or they can turn into one of those other types of cells. Mm-hmm. That's what makes them regenerative in nature and why everyone's so excited about them.
Oh, so it can become anything?
Not anything, but many different types.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Oh,
that's new. I did not know that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a couple of different ways you can go about what's the word?
Harvesting?
Yes.
Making them or whatever. So you have a particular way that you go about doing that.
Right. We use autologous cells, which means we're using cells from you, the patient. So everyone has stem cells in their body. They run around repairing things all day. You have different cells as you age. You have cell lifespans, and stem cells are there to fix stuff. So they are stored in both your bone marrow and in your fat tissue. So we can actually just extract a couple tablespoons of your fat tissue.
No.
Yep, just a couple tablespoons, and we can use enzymatic digestion and centrifugation and a cell wash process to extract the stem cells from the fat tissue.
Okay. So does it matter that, I'm already my age and my cells, I know
that a secret?
Well, everyone knows, but so I'm middle-aged, right? Mm-hmm. Well, so our daughter might have stem cells that are young and great, but I don't really wouldn't think that my stem cells would be that great at doing anything because they've already aged so much.
So everyone says that, oh, my stem cells are old, they're not going to work. And that's just not true. It is true that younger stem cells are better, but without stem cells, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. So your stem cells actually work fine. They just work a little bit slower than someone who's 18 or 19, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no age restrictions on anything that we do. And the oldest patient we've had was 102 years old. We treated her knees, and she actually did great.
That's awesome.
So you still have stem cells no matter how old that you get.
Okay.
Good for her.
Yeah,
still rocking it at 102. That's fantastic.
That's really neat. Really
great. You've been doing this for a long time, longer than most in this industry that's still, in its infancy. So, we could talk about the education part of things, but when I look at this, I had a question. I came into this morning that was structural versus internal. I hear a lot about stem cells, from an orthopedic standpoint, but I was curious about what they do beyond that, not just bone and joint and that sort of thing, but what can they do for organs and tissue and cells, of the body of that nature?
So internal use for all the organ systems of stem cells is incredibly exciting. So we hear a lot about stem cells for knees and shoulders and hips, just because it's very simple, right? When I do my talks, I always talk about knees because it's, everyone has a knee. We understand cartilage, it's gone, and we grow it back. It's just very simple. And a lot of people can, work within that realm. There's a ton of research on it. But there's stuff for the cardiovascular, pulmonary, kidneys. There's tons of applications for organs themselves. So the pulmonary stuff is really, really exciting.
This fascinated me.
COPD.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So let's talk about that.
So currently, if we don't count stem cell treatments, your treatments for COPD are very basic. Here's some inhalers. Here's some steroids. Here's some albuterol breathing treatments, and eventually we'll put you on oxygen. And it's kind of just this downward slope of, your lung function is going to diminish completely, and there's nothing we could do, and we try to make you comfortable. And it's really, really sad. So with stem cells, we can actually decrease the inflammation in the airways and also regrow new lung tissue. And it's the only thing that can reverse or halt the damage from those pulmonary diseases like COPD.
Wow.
So as an example, COPD patients, if you've ever seen like an end-stage COPD patient, they all look relatively the same. They have grayish faces, bluish purpley lips because they're not getting
Lack of
very
oxygen,
oxygenated.
yeah.
Yep. They have what's called a barrel chest or barrel belly because they've been working so hard to breathe. And then they have a hard time ambulating or walking, not because they can't walk, but because they can't catch their breath.
Right. And there's probably other health issues then that are
Always.
showing up.
Always more
Yeah, just
comorbidities.
Right.
But when we use stem cells, the whole family can see it. Within a couple of weeks, their cheeks get peachy, their lips get a little more color in them, and they don't look so gray because they're actually getting more oxygen to the skin. And the whole family can see it, and it's just so beautiful. They always hug us and cry and do that thing because it's the only thing actually helping reverse the disease. Now, we can't cure it, but we can definitely, make a better quality of life with the time that they have left.
Okay.
Wow. So how many cases of that with COPD or have you worked with?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. Wow.
Really?
Okay. I'm surprised we haven't heard about it before now, before talking to you. That's amazing. That's a big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've gotten to know Melissa over time. That was what really, interested me about her, to hear where she was, taking this. And so do you have people so you're in the Tampa area, and so you have people coming from Tampa, but you have people coming from other parts of the country as well?
Yes, so I would say close to 40% of our patients are travel from all over the U.S. and Canada. So people travel to us, and we're not the only clinic doing what we're doing, but we are a pretty good clinic with customer service and things like that. So we do have tons of travel patients.
Okay. And then what are some of the other treatments that you're working with?
Other conditions.
Other conditions, maybe outside of COPD, but maybe are an internal tissue. What would be some things that people maybe wouldn't conventionally think about with stem cells that you're either finding, pioneering maybe, or looking towards, in the future even working on?
Kidney disease,
Okay.
renal failure, diabetes, neuropathy.
Now
stroke.
tell me about diabetes. What's going on there? Is it actually working with the organs then at that point and creating balance? Because we that's something that with our CBD product that we've seen levels and some balance and some things happen, in the positive direction with people with diabetes that hasn't been happening before. And we always, at the level that we understand it, attribute it to you're getting a more balanced just organ. And when the organ's performing better because your body's in balance, and in our case, the ECS is in balance, then you're going to have obviously the better results in the numbers.
So with diabetes, it is a metabolic disorder, and anytime we have a metabolic disorder, there's a lifestyle change that has to take place.
Right.
Diabetes is 100% reversible, and that just...
Type 2.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
completely reversible if we change our eating habits and maintain level blood sugar. But the way stem cells work is they can actually reproduce the beta cells and the islets of the pancreas so that they can create more insulin. Right? It's definitely not a one-time fix, and there's a lot of changes that have to take place. We can't just shoot someone with stem cells and say, oh, you don't have diabetes anymore. There's definitely some work that goes along with it, but it's It's crazy the
Great.
stuff that they're
So
doing.
when you have someone with diabetes, would you do an IV infusion of stem cells? So you're not like, going
not
in and
injecting
injecting
into
the
the pancreas.
right? You can't really do that. So, okay, so you're just doing IV. And then the stem cells, from what I understand, generally know where to go. They sort of tend to do what they're supposed to do. They go in, and if there's a lot of inflammation or if there's an issue somewhere, the stem cells really have that communication factor and they go where they need to go. Do I understand that correctly generally?
Relatively. So I like to tell people that, we're not stem cell whisperers. When we put them into your veins, we don't get to say, hey, go to the pancreas.
Right.
Well,
You
with
know-
Google Maps now, it's
Google Maps, I
it's
just program it
gotten
in there.
so much better.
They're going to
Yeah.
follow the path of your blood, right? So they're going to go, put it in your arm, they go straight to the heart and lungs, and they do get caught in what's called the pulmonary trap, which is why stem cells are so great for the cardiovascular and pulmonary system. But they do get out of that trap, but it's normally going to take more than one treatment to make it to the pancreas, because if you have diabetes, I guarantee you have other organ issues.
Yeah, right.
And they do follow the path of blood, find damage, and fix it. But I can't say it's 2 treatments or it's 10 treatments, because
Okay.
we don't know where the stem cells are going to go once we put them in your, into your vascular system.
Okay. Now, do you notice that when you do IV infuse this, that it works almost like a youth serum? So for somebody, for somebody like me, I really don't have any joint pain. I don't have any issues, but I do lift weights a lot and, work out. So would it be beneficial for me to come in and just do something like that to keep my joints
So
good and my
I'm
skin
someone,
good?
yeah, I'm someone who does that because I have access to it. And what we don't realize is that your organs age just like your face does,
Right.
Because we're aging beings. So we can use stem cells intravenously, kind of for anti-aging or overall wellness. It's not something you have to do every day or anything, but usually the protocol for anti-aging, if you don't really have any health problems, is once a year if you're under 40 and twice a year if you're over 40.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of businesses that are in that space of the anti-aging, and I know that's something that you'll do. But when somebody comes into your office, they're going to come in and meet with a medical doctor, medical advisor at that time, and they're going to go through, is this even, the right procedure for
Right.
them? But really, I think what I'm hearing is you're looking for those candidates that are really experiencing something that's detrimental to them. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word disease, but they're obviously
I think you are,
experiencing
yeah.
something. We're so limited on what
We are really
what we
limited
are,
on what we
what
can
we can say and can't say, and we're always, wordsmithing. So, but you're really looking for someone that is having some type of experience. I mean, COPD, that's huge. Somebody's doing. So, are you working with pulmonary doctors then out there and kind of
I
unison,
would
or
love a great pulmonologist to cross-refer with.
Okay, okay.
I'm always looking for
because this
one.
works with their treatment and your partnership. Really, that would be the best of all worlds.
Any COPD patient needs stem cells. That's just the way it is right now. And I would love to meet a pulmonologist that's open-minded, because we're not going to take the patient away from the pulmonologist.
Right.
They're still going to have to do the lung function test and prescribe the oxygen and all that. But we could really help all of their COPD patients experience a better quality of life.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
can work in conjunction with what they're doing.
Right. Just allow the doctor to add something else that gives their patient better care. Right. So we're always looking for things like that in what we do. Okay.
Well, so the treatment then that someone is going through with the pulmonologist, that might be through their insurance program. When they go into get the stem cells, that's not covered by
That's right.
insurance. I was speaking to another gentleman, and he was thinking that within maybe the next 10 years it would be covered by insurance. But his point was, why would they? Because people are
Paying for it.
why not just ride that wave? And I don't know where I'm going with that, other than it's just something that but it's not as expensive, I think, as people think that
It's not.
that it is.
I hear a lot of terms. Oh, I can't afford $50,000, and I go, whoa, who said that?
Yeah. Right.
So
It's
most
not-
treatments at our clinic are between $5,000 and $6,000, and we have payment plans and financing options. And as far as when stem cells are going to be covered by insurance, I don't have a crystal ball.
No,
but it is hard to. It's hard to legislate something that's within your own body.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So if we're taking your fat cells, we're doing a medical procedure. We're governed by the Board of Medicine, and we follow all those guidelines. But once we get into insurance coverage, it's, well, what are you injecting, and is there a code for that? And it gets really, really difficult. It's almost like the legislation hasn't caught up with the scientific advances of,
That's
regenerative
usually the
medicine.
case, though, right? I mean, you guys are always a little bit ahead of our Congress. So-
Yeah. Mostly I think it's just let's get over that misconception of just how expensive it is to have this type
And
of
it's
treatment.
not.
And it's free to come into your office, right? And have that evaluation, and then let's just take a look and see if this is even a fit for you. So let's say a person has COPD. Let's say they're watching this and they realize, I didn't realize that was an option for me. They can reach out, they can contact your office. What's that experience going to be like for them? They're going to reach out, contact your office, set an appointment, and just kind of maybe what are the steps from there? Even timeline from, when everything's agreed upon to when they're actually getting the treatment, and what's that kind of look like?
So your first visit is a consultation. If you have medical records like pulmonary function tests and lab work, we ask that you bring those with you. It kind of streamlines the process. And then you'll meet with one of our physician's assistants or nurse practitioners or doctors and talk about what your options are. They'll do a focused physical examination and say, all right, this is our diagnosis. These are your options with us and with other people. And then you can choose what's the best for you.
Okay.
And usually at that point, if we say, yes, it's a go, and we all agree on that, I can normally get people an appointment within about 2 to 3 weeks for the procedure. So just depends on how busy we are.
Okay, and that's in your office in Tampa?
Yes. So the procedure actually happens, in our office, no anesthesia. You're just kind of numbed up a little bit and you're awake the whole time.
Okay.
So it's a very, very low risk procedure.
Nice.
Okay.
Excellent.
What's the we talked about the oldest. What's the youngest you can be to have this type of a treatment?
So our license only covers children over the age of 13. We like to have them closer to that 16 age range, but our medical license covers us with 13 and above.
Okay.
If you have children with, really bad conditions, we normally have to outsource that to some stem cell people down in Panama. You have to go out of the country for the children.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Why is that? Just our government again?
Well,
a little
13 is
behind?
younger than what I would even
Well,
really.
that's what adult practitioners, that's what their
That's
license
where their
starts
license
at.
starts.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's
so they don't.
13.
It's not approved then pediatrically. You guys can't get a license to do this for pediatrics.
I would think maybe it might come into play with, I think of some of the leukemias or those types of things that children experience, that maybe this might be helpful for them and a reason to go down to Panama. I don't want to derail us
Well,
from
yeah, but
No.
they
where
do
we're at,
a
but-
lot of more serious stuff, juvenile diabetes and
Yeah.
Okay.
a lot of really bad morbidities for children. We can't do them here, unfortunately, yet.
Yeah, not yet. You're working on that.
But this is something cool. We don't do it, but there's stem cells for your dogs and your cats and your horses.
Really?
Yes.
Horse there
I
is.
don't want to
We
derail
have-
it.
we have
Horse
horses.
there
No,
is.
this is great. Everybody really will
So-
be interested. Whenever we talk about pets, people really like to hear about that.
So
yeah,
horses, there's a huge equine market for stem cells for horses, and it's actually the same exact procedure as the human one.
really,
Yes.
you take it from their fat.
Yep.
And
You use the same tools and everything, the same exact tools.
So you have the interview and the consultation with the horse and see if it's going to be a good fit. Now we have a horse.
We
Our
have a-
daughter
Okay.
has a
Yeah.
horse, and he actually is on our UltraCell CBD. He has come off of his hock injections.
Okay.
His coat is brilliant, and also it works with him mentally, just like it does in humans. And so he doesn't spook in the ring. Not that he did terribly, but
Yeah.
He
they
did
do.
a little bit though. He was a pacer. He would pace.
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, and in fact, our daughter had there was spring break, and she missed a few days, and he wasn't on it, and she went to ride him, and he was just completely different, and she couldn't figure it out. And then she remembered, oh, I haven't had him on his
ultrasound.
ultrasound for a few
Okay.
days, so that's.
I didn't know that you could use CBD on horses. That's cool.
Not all CBD, but
Right.
ours happens to be pet friendly.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
every-
we can't have some certain preservatives and things in it, xylitol and some things that pets don't do too well with, and ours doesn't. So you can give it to them.
That's
so,
really
It
cool.
works tremendously. Dogs, any animal with the vertebrae has the ECS system, and I think there's even some outside of that have a system that it works with. Believe it or not,
we've had
That's
some
really
bird
cool.
success with it. So stem cells for horses. Listen, they're expensive creatures. We have one, and it's a lot. So when you have a problem, you're willing to pretty much do whatever it takes to fix it.
They've been doing it on horses longer than they have for
On
humans.
people.
Well,
Right.
okay.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. That's really, really cool.
We were talking about treatments, and so kind of circling back to this this COPD side, which I'm just really fascinated with, because I know how big of a when you have that, you're out of a lot of options.
Your life is,
So, which kind of leads to a question about this, and in general, the stem cell works well with other treatments, right? This is symbiotic, and it works. It's not something that, if I do this, I can't do that.
Right. So for the most part, it works in conjunction with a lot of the traditional therapies and even a lot of the alternative therapies it goes really well with. There's really only one big contraindication is high dose steroid use. It's not very good to mix those two because the steroids kind of are bad for the stem cells. But other than that, stem cells can be used with a lot of your wellness that you're doing already.
Okay.
That's good. Good to know.
So you're doing a lot of education around town too. What are the things that people need to hear or want to hear? What are those questions? What are they searching for you to just even get to that basis point? Because we do a lot of that as well.
A lot of educating.
80% of what we do is really education before you even get to a point of, what step am I going to take? So you're doing that around town, and then what are the questions people are coming to you with?
They're always asking, well, will it work for me? Am I too old? Is it too expensive? Those things that we've actually already covered. And then that's really it, is will it work for me? Am I too old? And how much does it cost? How can I afford it? Those are the really big ones that are always being asked every day. Oh, and when is insurance going to cover it? But we don't know that one yet.
Right.
So I know there are different ways to harvest stem cells. We talked about that initially, how you do it. Tell us, if you can, really quick, what maybe a couple of the other ways are and why you have chosen as a scientist and a researcher to go down the road you've gone down with stem cells.
So there's lots of baby products. So placental cells, cord blood cells, and dehydrated amniotic fluid. Those are ways to get stem cells. And I always tell people that if someone had a baby right here, they gave birth right next to us, and we harvested those stem cells and then injected them into your knee. Perhaps that would be better than harvesting your own stem cells and doing the same day procedure, but that's not what happens. We test the cells for HIV, hepatitis, and then we send it through a distribution process after we preserve it. Cryogenically preserve it, chemically preserve it, or dehydrate it, because we have to make organic material shelf stable. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, of course, yeah.
So once it goes through that distribution process, it goes to this distributor, down to this doctor who sold it to this doctor who sold it down. And it could be years before you ever actually get that sample of cells. And there's no quality check along the way. Once it leaves the lab, there's no quality check. So you could be getting 6-year-old frozen or dehydrated cells that aren't even alive. So it's not necessarily a live sample of cells, and you need a live sample of cells to regenerate anything. Even if the cells are dead in those products, you could have growth factors and proteins and albumins, which are really good nutrients, but they're not going to be able to grow any new cells if they don't have any live cells. So we choose a live sample of your own cells, no risk of rejection, and we know that they're alive because it's a same day procedure.
Okay. All right.
That's kind of the difference.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
And so how does somebody, or where do you want to point somebody to follow you, to track information? Let's say someone has seen this and they want to find out a little bit more, but maybe they're not ready to make that call for the appointment. I pull up your Facebook page, and it may present itself here on the screen, but regardless, what's your numbers or points of contact, or where do you want to direct people to kind of find out more information about you?
Yep. So me or StimCellix?
Well, StimCellix and yeah, both. Yeah.
So the StimCellix Facebook page has the same material that my personal Facebook page has. You can follow that, and it's daily updates, what we're doing, what kind of people we're treating, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in reading more in depth, the website StimCellix.org that has not only individual case types, it has a whole section with research articles if you want to read those white papers, and then you can book a consultation
I
from
see that.
any of those points.
I
Okay,
see
great.
that.
And they can book a consultation on your website and do that there. That's great.
Yeah, there's some good information here. I see a video here of you in a television show as well that you did, and then the the other thing that I was going to ask was, what was that?
I don't
So
know.
we've got your website up. Hang on, and so we have your Facebook page up. So we covered that. We have your website up. So you can book a consultation online. Got it. And then this is, I know what it was. You also have on here your some other therapies that you've got here. Yeah, so I was going to see if you could talk about those just a little
Yeah,
bit.
very quickly.
Okay, so in the orthopedic realm, avascular necrosis, torn rotator cuff, torn meniscus, arthritis is a big one. And then we also treat the pulmonary and then autoimmune conditions. So we're talking lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and then stroke. We can do a lot of cool stuff with stroke victims to regain function.
Awesome. It's been great having you on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Okay, everybody. Well, Melissa, it was great. Great to have you here. No more questions. We're all set with that. Anything you want to add? You're good?
No,
Well,
I think
I just think that for me, stepping back from it, just to kind of get out of that structural sense of it. When I thought of stem cells, I thought of the orthopedics, but have kind of come along and to just understand that it can do so much more for the body, and then just at least understanding, how they're harvested and kind of wrapping my mind around that. And I do like the concept of using my own cells. I mean, to me, it just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable than it is having something that I don't know where the source of that is, and that's just personal preference, but it makes sense to me that's the way it's
Yeah, it's
going.
exciting. I'm all about doing the preventative stem cells. I think that would be a great thing to do.
Yeah,
forward to it.
huge industry. Obviously, you're in a great space. Obviously, there's just going to be more and more of this as the education and awareness happens out there. Thank you for being in the Tampa community and educating everyone out this and making a difference in people's lives.
Right.
We'd like to think that we do the same. So.
absolutely.
All right, everybody. Melissa, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching That CBD Show. We'll see you next time.